Hi everyone.
Hello again.
We're in the Pure Worship publication on page 133. The subheading at the bottom of that page, Jehovah will cause his worshipers to become one.
I'll be reading from the screen, going back and forth, so excuse me if I look a bit distracted.
Yeah. Now we did want to just say what we talked about the last time.
Yeah, last time we made the point that J.F. Rutherford was a double apostate in that he had apostatized not just from his Baptist roots, but also from Russell. So he's cast off Russell by 1928. He's now insisting that you be loyal to the organization. That's become the operative word. But we forgot to mention last time that Russell too was a double apostate. He had left his Protestant roots behind, his parents' roots, and the church that he attended once when he was a teenager. He has now left that behind and joined himself to the Adventists, and some of the names you will know. But the key name to know here is Nelson Barbour.
Yeah.
Nelson Barbour gave him most of his Russell-like theology. But then, by the time Russell dies, Barbour has been cast away. So he has left both his Protestant roots and his Barbour roots.
Yeah.
So this is a very sad testimony as to the rootlessness of Jehovah's Witnesses today. They don't even realize today not only the four presidents' importance, but in Nelson Barbour's importance.
And always they use the same scripture to make this sound like it's the right thing to do. Proverbs 4:18. You all know that one. New light. And they use it to say that they are getting better and better. New light, better understanding, progressive
light.
And they'll
do you
even
realize
use
the
that
frequency with which they use that concept today? New light seems to be also being shunted aside in favor of progressive light, as if we can assume that new light is always progressive, which of course your own history testifies against you in the flip-flops, but also your view of what God's been doing these past 2,000 years doesn't conform at all to the idea of progressive light.
Yeah.
It's new light in the sense that, your stuff is new light, and nobody's ever believed it before, but it's not progressive. So here in these two paragraphs we're covering today, they make some, well, what can I say, just calamitous errors in their self-understanding. You can understand they don't even understand their own history.
Yeah.
So we're going to read for you the two paragraphs in the Pure Worship book. From Jehovah will cause his worshippers to become one, the bottom of 133. It says, what significance does the prophecy of the unification of the two sticks have in our time? Keep in mind that the point of the prophecy was to illustrate how two groups would become united. Well, in the original, of course, it's Judah and Israel, not two groups, Judah and Israel.
Yeah.
Above all, the prophecy highlights that this unity is brought about by Jehovah. So what important truth about pure worship does this prophetic illustration of the joining of the two sticks highlight? Put simply, this: Jehovah himself will cause his worshippers to become one.
Then the next paragraph, since 1919, after God's people had been spiritually cleansed and had begun to enter a spiritual paradise, the prophecy of the joining of the sticks began to see its greater fulfillment. At that time, the majority of those brought together in unity had the hope of becoming kings and priests in heaven. Symbolically, these anointed ones were like the stick for Judah, a nation that included David's kings and Levitical priests. However, as time went on, these spiritual Jews were joined by more and more of those with an earthly hope. Such ones were like the stick of Ephraim, a nation that did not include Davidic kings and Levitical priests. Together, both groups serve unitedly as Jehovah's people under their one King, Jesus Christ.
What can we say about the type? First of all, your abuse of the type. If you're going to use the restoration of Judah after the exile as your type of something, well, it appears that all you've kept is the number 2. Like there's two nations here, two sticks, two nations. Yeah, but they all had one hope. These two peoples, Israel and Judah, all had one hope, which was earthly. You've turned that into heavenly hope and priesthood and earthly hope. Everybody else.
Yeah.
What's the comparison?
Yeah.
Except the number two.
Yeah.
And then there's all these phrases that they just load up on. God's people had been spiritually cleansed in 1919. Is that so? What were they publishing in 1919?
The Finnish Mystery, the Millions booklet, Millions Now Living Will Never Die.
And in 1921, they followed it up with
The Harp of God, with the same prophecy on the cover of the book.
So they're prophesying an end by 1925, and you're saying they've been spiritually cleansed during this period.
And he decides they're the ones that he's going to favor. You know.
And then you get down to, well, just right after that, next clause, had begun to enter a spiritual paradise. Well, spiritual paradise is a construction that just doesn't hold up under the light of your own modern history. You were fumbling and fumbling some more right up until, 1975 and then 1999.
But even what right do you have to say that that spiritual, the application or the fulfillment is spiritual instead of literal, as the Jews reading it would have thought, that this was literally to happen at some point.
So you get to let's see, about 6 lines from the bottom of paragraph 14, and it says, however, as time went on, these spiritual Jews were joined by more and more of those with an earthly hope.
They've already just disregarded any application to Israel.
So here's the concept of, things got better and better since 1919. Well, I'm sorry, that doesn't match up with your history. I mean, first of all, there's the flip-flops. But this, again, the type falls, because Judah was cleansed. Judah's exile, the 70 years in Babylon, cleansed them of their gross idolatry.
Yeah.
What is the parallel with you? You haven't been cleansed. Their idolatry has never gone. They've never gone back to that gross idolatry. Have you not noticed that? I must admit, when I was a witness, I didn't think about this very much. Their gross idolatry was cleansed and is still cleansed 2,600 years later. So what do we make of that?
Since it was such a big problem, that is pretty miraculous that it's no longer a problem for them.
On the other hand, your spiritual paradise, your spiritual cleansing that you say took place right after 1919 or by 1919, that has not been progressive, in that your organization has become more and more obviously idolatrous in the 100 years since.
Progressively more idolatrous. So.
Yes, there has been progress in the direction of idolatry. That is, you have become more and more overtly idolatrous. In my day, I have to say, it was hidden from my eyes. It was covert, like, you better trust these men because Armageddon is coming soon. Now it's overt. You're not just trusting some phantasm called 144,000, most of whom you never meet at all anyway. But now you're trusting literal men who are still alive living in New York.
Yeah. So I think they began as having cultic tendencies and cultic ideas, trends that they elaborated on until they finally became a full-blown cult.
And when did that happen?
Which is what they are now.
Quite quickly, within Rutherford's presidency, they became a full-blown cult.
Yeah.
So that's not progress. That's idolatry, and it's all happened within 105 years or so.
Because I think you can say right now, top priority for a Jehovah's Witness is you must listen to the governing body, never speak against them, trust them, and obey them, even if it doesn't
if you don't understand
sense. Isn't that one of the things they said recently?
Yeah. Even if the advice you get, the counsel you get, doesn't make sense to you, you must trust the governing body.
Yeah.
I don't see how anything could be more overt in the way of idolatry than trust 8 men, 9 men.
Yeah. Or however many they have
however
right now.
many. It can change, Mom.
Yeah.
What's our link?
We're linking to the first of 3 videos about destructive religious groups. How do you know you're in a destructive religious group is the first one.
Yeah.
And you can find actually the document that it's based on our website, onewonders.org, in the PDF archive. Yeah.
See you next time.